Coming up on the Braves Sports
Flu
Network,
season awareness.
we have the Cedric Thomas program here from the beautiful campus of Alcorn State University. Another close football game. Tough way to end high school and community colleges day. We'll talk all about it with Braves head football coach Cedric Thomas, and we'll look ahead to homecoming. We'll also have A.D. Dwayne Robinson joining us via the phone to talk about this week's game, and there's a lot of conversation on social media about is the game going to be played? Are they going to show up? We'll talk all about that with A.D. Dwayne Robinson coming up as the Cedric Thomas program will start in 30 seconds here on the Braves Sports Network.
Some names immediately evoke an uncommon sense of family, an unmistakable sense of character, an undeniable sense of legacy. Always. Where trailblazers and innovators chart new paths of possibility. Where academic rigor empowers the strength of character to lead with knowledge and integrity. It's a name that harkens back to over 150 years of truly making a difference in our world. Always Alcorn.
Student health and well-being here at Alcorn State University.
Live from the beautiful campus of Alcorn State University, it's Homecoming 2025 here on the beautiful campus. Coming up, we have the Cedric Thomas program. We'll talk all about the Prairie View game. Came down to the wire. Second time in a row these two teams have played here at home, and it came down to a field goal attempt. So we'll talk about that. We'll be taking your texts and your comments, and we'll look ahead to the next game, which is Lincoln on homecoming, the Outlanders of Lincoln. And we'll talk about that coming up. You can text a question, 601-301-2611 on X Tallman Radio. We'll take a time out here. We'll be back in 60 seconds with the start of the Cedric Thomas program here on the Braves Sports Network.
Agriculture isn't just what we do, it's who we've always been. At Alcorn State University's College of Agriculture and Applied Sciences, we've always understood that feeding the world takes more than knowledge. It takes heart. Our rigorous programs blend time-honored wisdom with cutting-edge science. Here, you'll join generations of innovators who've always pushed boundaries while keeping their roots firmly planted in tradition. Always growing, always innovating, always Alcorn.
Founded in 1920, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has produced some of the most iconic names in sports. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Alcorn State, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, Grambling State, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Prairie View A&M, Southern, Texas Southern, and the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff have united to embark on a new era of greatness. The Southwestern Athletic Conference, building champions for life.
6460. This friendly health reminder presented by Student Health and Well-Being here at Alcorn State University.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Cedric Thomas program here on the Braves Sports Network from the beautiful campus of Alcorn State University. Should be a fun week of activities with homecoming and, of course, the football game. Alcorn and Lincoln coming up at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Yes, the game will be played. There's discussion. I've received a ton of calls over the last week. Will the game be played? Is it canceled? Lincoln's canceled some games. Will our game be canceled? The answer is no, the game will be played, and to have more details on it is Athletics Director Dwayne Robinson. He'll join us later on in the program via telephone. Tough game for the Braves this past Saturday on High School and Community Colleges Day. We'll talk all about it with Braves head football coach Cedric Thomas. Coach, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm blessed, Mr. Charles.
Man, I tell you what, just another nail-biter coming down to the stretch. Another close game, another tough way to lose a football game right there. Just couldn't get over the hump there.
Yeah, still searching for that first one and just, searching to learn how to win and finish it down the stretch, But that's going to be one of them life callings that we apply to, our day-to-day walk on this universe. When you do things the right way and you still fall short, what do you do? Do you cry in self-pity, or you get your butt up off the mat and you continue to work to try to right those wrongs? So we got another opportunity that we blessed to receive, and so we'll continue to work to get better starting in the morning and, try to get this bad run and bad taste out of our mouth.
do you feel like, I know fans might have different opinions, but do you feel like looking at it every day, the day-to-day, that this team is improving?
Yeah, most definitely. You go just, when you look at all phases, you look at the incident from the punt, snapping it over his head. Well, knock on wood, we hadn't had any more bad snaps in the punt game. From the punt standpoint, no guys are returning it. We hadn't had any major returns since then. You look at the kickoff, we've done a really good job versus the kickoff. Now it's just that old throwing it outside with the field goal and, operation against, Pine Bluff. We roll it on the ground, and then this week we get one block. So we definitely got to look at that, just a lot bit more specific where we got to change personnel or we got to, change the schematic part, from that standpoint. And so a kickoff return and punt return has been doing really good. So we're getting better, from a kicking game standpoint. Defensively, you see, Coach Rowe and that staff do a really good job of stymieing a good offense down and, seeing the offense. We're still doing a really good job of just creating a new line of scrimmage at times, but just got to be more consistent. And we got to score points, and that's the biggest thing that I'm really just kind of chomping at the bits to be able to go in and make sure that we're on the same page just from an offensive standpoint, that we got to score points. And that's at the end of the day, that's got to happen, and we'll continue to work to do it and put a game plan together to make sure these guys can get this thing in the box.
Yeah, that's a few weeks ago when we took on Alabama A&M. We scored 31 points, so you're like, okay. And then, of course, UAPB had some chances, but not as many points against PVU.
Yeah, but I also look at, A&M versus, Jackson, and, they're giving up 54, and you kind of sit there and say, was that really, a 31 that was warranted? You look at Pine Bluff and what they did, this week, to Texas Southern, team, and I'm sitting there saying I looked at, all those teams, and I've, kind of measured it to my roster, and so we continue to fall short, in that category. So we just got to keep plugging at it, put game plans together where our guys can excel and get our playmakers the football, and so we're going to continue to do that and hammer this thing out to where we can score more points than the other team.
We got Lincoln coming in at 2 o'clock on Saturday, so let's take a look at this game, Coach, against PVU. Low-scoring game. When you looked at Tremaine Jackson's ball club going in, and you talked about the keys to victory. What were your keys going into this game to get our first win?
Yeah, stopping the run. That was the biggest thing up front with those guys. They had some amazing backs. The quarterback, you see they played too. Those guys were dynamic with their legs, and I thought for the most part, minus the explosive that they had early, we kind of stymied that run game down, just from the explosive standpoint, hit us on a big pass where, the corners just got to turn around and find it. But I thought the guys played at a high level and did a really good job of just maintaining their integrity and playing a really sound football game defensively.
Well, let's start with the action here. Prairie View won the toss and deferred to the second half. So we got the football at the start, Coach, and had to punt on 4th and 4, had to punt the football. We had a false start there on that first drive, the second play of the game, and that kind of set us back.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Tyron Warren or if that was the right tackle. I don't know if they said 70 or 7. We had a little influx of motion to bring the wide out in, so I don't know if he, attacked the line of scrimmage too fast or the tackle actually, got out too fast.
So the penalty set us back, a 41-yard punt by Duval, and the Panthers started a minute in at their own 28-yard line. And you look at the two-quarterback system that Prairie View used in this game. Was that a tricky situation to deal with, or just something that you kind of planned for and you schemed for?
Yeah, you got to plan for it, but each one of them got a different skill set, and sometimes you just got to. It's like having two game plans, and so for us defensively, the more information you retain, the slower it kind of makes you because you're constantly trying to look to see who's in, and you look at the playbook in which they use, and so that's a really good concept that they're using. It don't work for everybody, but Coach Jackson, he feel like it gives them the advantage to be able to win football games. So kudos to him. However, I thought we kind of, matched up with, 21 early, and then, they kind of gave us some different looks. But once the guys settled down, we made some well-needed stops.
Well, the Panthers took over at their own 28-yard line. They had a 2nd down and 21. There was a personal foul penalty in there, so they were backed up. But a 33-yard pass to Ethan John that put him in field goal position, Coach.
Yeah, that was a really good play. Something we hadn't seen, that they did with the double tight end look. They ran away from the nickel. That gave us an odd guy out the box. And tight end did a good job tight rubbing the sideline and getting extra yardage to get them guys, in field goal position. Deep
in the drive, they had a 4th down and 1. And then we jumped off sides to give them a new set of downs.
Yeah, tough play, but, you can't tell them guys to just hold in there all the time and be aggressive at the same time. We got to be disciplined from a ball key standpoint. But early, I wasn't disappointed, at that time.
So they had another 4th down and 5, and they had to settle for Aiden Webb a field goal of 21 yards. So despite all that, we kept them out of the end zone, and they had an early 3-0 lead.
Yeah, I thought the guys settled down. Their first drive is always, a little different because you get new concepts. Guys kind of practice and try to scheme you up. But for them guys to kind of bow up in that red zone versus that good offense, I thought that was a really good job, from them defensively.
So our next drive started at exactly the 10-minute mark of the first quarter on a 3rd down and 4 out of the shotgun. There was a fumble, a forced fumble, and Jalen Tolbert recovered that fumble. So on a 3rd down and 4, talk about that play, Coach.
Yeah, I think he just fumbled the snap. I think the center kind of snapped it to the right, hit his hand and kind of fell down. I think we got it bailed out, from that play with a penalty, I think, and kind of kept the drive moving. But just got to do a really good job of keeping the operation good from center to quarterback exchange.
Yeah, there was a personal foul that gave us a new set of downs, and we had to settle for a field goal of Lorenzo Garcia, a 30-yard field goal to tie the game.
Yeah, that's Renzo, first collegiate field goal. He missed the first one against Pine Bluff, and it's his first one. You've been in the program for 3 years, and so it was good to just see him, right his wrongs from the week previous, but also see him to get one to go through.
It was 3-3 at the end of the first quarter. The first drive, Coach, for the Braves in the second quarter, you made a quarterback change. Andre Washington came in at the 12:06 mark of the second quarter. You talked about it last week in terms of what Tolbert has to do and make the reads in terms of running the football. What did you see that gave you the indication that you needed to make a change?
Well, we was going to put Dre in, anyway. That he was going to be the quarterback to do the quarterback run game stuff. So it wasn't us benching, Jalen from production or anything. We just wanted, more of a stronger runner to be able to come down here, and play 11-on-11 football. So we had a package for him that we felt like it could be really conducive to us, moving the football and being aggressive in the run game, and then also had a pass, open for him that he had opportunity to throw later on to Jacoby.
So that was obviously a design, just getting a different package in for Washington.
Yeah, it was kind of the same deal we did against maybe A&M when Mako got hurt, and so we just kind of wanted to just play 11-on-11. You see how tough it is for us defensively to how to manage all these quarterbacks who's running the football around, and so we know Dre, he can do it with his legs and got a live arm, so we wanted to give him an opportunity to just make the football game 11-on-11.
So talk about his progression. Obviously, we had a quarterback leave the program, so Washington moved up, and how he's been able to handle the number 2.
He's getting better. He still left a little meat on the bone on Saturday. I think if he flattened that throw out, and get Jacoby a better chance to get an opportunity to catch it, I thought, he had a chance there. He had a missed curl route that was right in his face, but he gave us what we wanted when we asked him to, just in the run game. And so we'll continue to build that package and, continue to give him some throws that, that's simple for him that he can make, so we can keep progressing, upward with him.
So the drive stalled at our 38-yard line, and after a 42-yard punt, the Panthers took over at the 25-yard line. On a 3rd down and 9, we had a personal foul, which gave them a new set of downs there, Coach. And on a 2nd and 10, Cameron Peters to Rockwell for 13 yards at personal foul penalty. We could have got off the field right there, but that gave them a new set of downs. Just talk about that particular penalty.
Yeah, I can't remember, that one. I don't know if that was who it was on, but I don't remember
Andrews?
That one. Andrews. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I just remember the touchdown play,
Yeah.
which was way worse and detrimental for us not to win. Patrick Kent's in great shape. We talked all week about the press look and what type of throws offensively they was going to attack you with. And he in great, position, great in phase, and, just failed to turn around and find the football. And so we knew, Rockwell was their leading receiver, and if we pressed the look, we was going to get the fade, and we thought we could win. But he just got to get his head around and find the football.
So that made it 10-3, the Panthers with the lead. And then we got the football coach, the 5-minute offense or the 4-minute offense. We got it at the 4:57 mark at our 28-yard line. Coach, talk about that particular drive, what you were looking for to try to get some points with 4:57 left in the second quarter.
Yeah, of course, we wanted a touchdown, and so we worked those drills, week in and week out, and so we had opportunity to be able to get points out of it. So I thought the guys was really just in tune to what was going on from a play call and execution standpoint, and we got it down, and we was able to get some points going into the half.
There was also a block, too, Coach, on that drive with 4:57 left. Duval had it blocked, but we got a new set of downs because they were called for leaping. That extended the drive. You always talk about the operation on that punt block.
Yeah, it was really good. That's why they had to jump over and try to get it. So I wasn't worried about that. Those guys did a really good job on the edge, but we're better. We're so much better. Knock on wood, those guys are executing at a high level on the punt. You see, Meach later on in the game, out the back of the end zone, turn the field over to the 50-yard line. And so he's doing an amazing job. Those guys continue getting better. We continue to work, but that penalty was, detrimental for those guys, but it also helped us be able to get the ball in position to score.
Yeah, with 1:09 left in the second quarter, we were able to get a field goal. We started at the 40-yard line, they're 40, and we were able to get a late field goal, a 32-yard field goal from Garcia to make it 10-6.
Which ended up being his longest field goal of his career, at the time. And so, we was excited about it, just getting some points. Felt like we had the game in hand, where we had opportunity to pull it out late, but also create some distance, coming in the second half.
What was so impressive about this team defensively? The corrections for this particular game, low-scoring game at the break. The defense bowed up at times. What impressed you about the defense?
Their defense or our defense?
Oh, I'm sorry, our defense.
Yeah, I thought Coach Rowe did a really good job, from a play calling standpoint and from a game plan standpoint. He knew, where the +1 was coming from in the run game. He made the necessary adjustments when 21 was in, when Peters was in, when 4 got in. He kind of made some calls that was conducive to, that young man. And so I thought, just the week of practice and the preparation and the guys understanding the game plan, really gave him opportunity to kind of stymie this defense down with them great running backs and quarterbacks that they have.
So it's 10-6, the Panthers at the break. As we fast forward to the third quarter, the Panthers got the football at the 25-yard line, and then on a 4th down and 3, Aiden Webb's field goal was no good. So a long drive there, coach getting off the field, no points for the Panthers.
Yeah, the defense, had some really good stops and really good times to make sure that the offense didn't get any points, on those drives. And so those guys played lights out. Steve, he led us. He was banged up and bruised, but man, he showed a lot of grit, to getting the guys together and being able to get stops when needed.
All right, so with that, we fast forward 15 minutes into the third quarter. It was a 4th down and 3. They were able to get off the field, coach, on a missed field goal. So then we took the football over at the 25-yard line in a big play. Jacoby Matthews, a 71-yard catch and run that set us up inside the 5-yard line. He had a bunch of touches, I think 6 touches to my count, with special teams and what he did receiving the football. You talked about it a few weeks ago, how Matthews was moving up and going to get more opportunities.
Yeah, he's just doing things right. We always come by the office, man, and sit down and fellowship with me. And, the kids, he goes through something, like a lot of the young adults. But, I wasn't going to hold that personally against him. And so to see him, just get the fruits of his labor, he the ultimate team player, and just seeing him right his wrongs and have opportunity to come out and just get the football. And, coaches did a good job of featuring him. And, we're going forward. He'll get, continue to get touches and give the offense opportunity to score points. And so just, shout out to Kobe, coming to work every day, and can't wait to see him in the morning, getting ready to get better.
So with that, the touchdown, we did score on that drive, Coach. Reggie Davis, a 2-yard run that capped off a 75-yard drive.
Yeah, I thought, we can be explosive versus really good defense, and we just got to be consistent with doing that. We got to be able to get our playmakers the ball consistently. We got to be able to stretch the field vertically when time permits, and we also got to just hang on to this dynamic run game that we got. So it's enough plays out there, there's enough footballs for the guys, and I expect us to continue to do that going forward.
So with that touchdown, we had the PAT blocked.
Yeah, that was disheartening. You just coach him through life. Cam, he's the left guard. You see him, bow up and do a really good job on the field goals prior, but for whatever reason, that play he just took off. And shout out to Prairie View and that defense, man. Those guys came off the ball, clearly knocked them in the backfield, got their hands up, and that one point, just kind of hunted us the whole game.
How does that, and I've talked about it during the broadcast, big play, big score, big momentum changer, you get the touchdown, and then the PAT gets blocked. You see it in the NFL, you see it on the collegiate level. How much oxygen does that take out of the balloon when you work so hard to get points, to get a touchdown, and then have the PAT blocked?
Almost lifeless. It's such a gut punch where you really just gotta, you're almost in a matrix phase because you do it, you talk to them and you preach to them over and over about the little things and not taking a play off, but you also judge a really good defense not by the 6 points, but by that 1 point. And Prairie View did a really good job of putting 2 guys over him. He clearly took the play off, and they was able to capitalize.
So it was 12-10 at the end of the third quarter, but then the Panthers grabbed the lead 13-12 in the fourth quarter. And so the Braves had some opportunities in the fourth quarter. We got it, Coach, with 14:46 left on a 4th down and 8. And then with 6:42 left, got the football again. And on a 3rd down and 15, Tolbert's pass was intercepted by Zachary. A 3rd down and 15 play.
Yeah, similar to a punt. You might as well kick it. You're going to get it about at the same distance, if you punt the football. So, really wasn't discouraged about that. We knew defensively kind of got a beat on what they was doing. We just didn't want them to get in, leak at yardage to get in field goal range. And so defense came out and did their job. But, the pick was kind of similar to a punt. We just really wanted to take a shot. Hopefully we can get a pass interference or a completion.
Get a PI out of it, and it was an intercept. And then the Panthers got it with 5:29 left and was forced to punt. And then, Coach Thomas, we got it with 3:46 left. And that is the 4-minute offense. And I talk about it in these situations. You do it in practice. You sit the football down, 3:46 left, 2 timeouts, put the ball down at the 31-yard line. So we got to a situation, Coach, on a 4th down and 2. We had a penalty against the Panthers offside that gave us a new set of downs at the 44-yard line. Then on a 3rd down and 13, and this is what everyone has been talking about from this sequence on, 3rd down and 13. Jalen Tolbert shook off a couple of tacklers, could have been sacked, stayed with it, and a great throw to Rush, really a great catch by Jarvis Rush to set it up.
Yeah, it was just one of those deals. We finally caught a break. The ball gets wide right. He muffs it. He batted on the ground and finally got it. He was able to be elusive enough to escape the rush and, drop the dime on Jay, and he did a really good job of, securing it all the way to the ground.
A heck of a play, a heck of a throw, heck of a catch. So that set us up, Coach, a 31-yard catch, 1st and 10 from the Panthers' 28-yard line. Jacorian Sewell with a 3-yard run to the 25-yard line. We took a timeout with 55 seconds left. So from that point, it was a 2nd down and 7. On a 2nd down play, an incomplete pass, then Tolbert sacked. So take us through it, Coach. Everyone's been talking about it. The sequence, the assumption is that, hey, you run the football, you get the ball in the middle of the field, set yourself up for a walk-off field goal, but a couple of pass plays in that sequence. Talk about the mindset there.
Yeah, we as you see, we didn't rush for 100, and so down the stretch, we ran it the first time and got 3. But we knew we had to get a lot closer for Lorenzo. His longest, up until this, he only kicked, only made 2 field goals his whole career. And the longest was 32. And so even at the 25, that's still, a little bit out of his range.
42-yard field goal there.
From what we saw.
Yeah.
And so we felt like that wasn't close enough. And so, we've been stymied in the run game, pretty much the whole game for whatever reason. And so we just wanted to throw something quick to give, quarterback an opportunity to throw it out of bounds or incompletion. And, it was told over the headset because we can talk to the quarterback, hey, don't tuck a sack. Pressure come through fast. He can't get rid of it. And so now we're in a situation where we got to kick a 47, I think, maybe 48-yard field goal. So the mindset was we was out of range anyway, because of, Renzo leg strength. This is the second kicker, and, he's only got 2 makes on his whole career, and he's been here 3 years. I've been watching him for a long time. Coach Fosserman goes out with those guys pregame and kind of measure, with the wind, what hash and all that and what it looked like, and we just felt like it was still out of range for him and didn't want to put him in that situation to be able to, exert that much force for a situation that we knew, wasn't conducive to him being successful.
So running the football, it was tough sledding for us. I think we averaged about 3 yards per carry. It would have been, you felt like would have been tough for us to ground and pound, just drive it up the middle, get as close as we could, even though you were kind of looking at the range of Garcia.
Yeah, we had 3.5 quarters to run it, and we got about 3 yards a carry and 92 yards, and that was way below. So I didn't want to risk just cramming it in there and even losing yards. Knew we was gonna get man coverage. Felt like we had a speed out and a way to distribute the ball right now. But definitely can't take a sack.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Talk about that play that he did take the sack. He just couldn't get it out of his hands.
Yeah, it just happened fast. And then he, guy, jumped in the passing lane, and he still got to bang it to the ground and just get rid of it. We'll still kick it from right there, and we'll see what Lorenzo do from there. But definitely can't take a sack in that position.
41-yard field goal attempt by Lorenzo Garcia. It was off to the right, And of course, the obvious thinking is instead of if we didn't get the sack and if we got some more yards, we could have helped us in that situation. You know, as you look back, as you play it back in your mind, you're like, man, if we just could have got a few more yards, that would have been a better opportunity for Garcia.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, if those yards was guaranteed, I definitely would have did whatever we had to do to get the guaranteed yards. But we know how this universe is. You know, ain't nothing guaranteed. You know, that offense, you know, that defense has been doing it pretty much all game, and they just gave us some different looks because of the backs that we have. They didn't play us like, you know, everybody thought, you know, and even us coming in with 3 safeties on the roof. Nah, they really kind of boxed us in, gave us a 9-man box where we expected, you know, with really good running backs. And so those run lanes was, you know, slim to none. And so we just decided to ditch it on the edge and worst come to worst, get a completion or, you know, incomplete, but we definitely can take a sack.
And with that, the 41-yard field goal was no good with 39 seconds left, and that was it as the Panthers won a close game 13-12. Coach, that was tough. I mean, we hung in there, and you talked about it. The defense kind of hung in there. What pleased you in this game? What concerns you coming out of this game?
You know, the fight and the grit of the guys, you know, they fought their tails off. You know, they competed at a high level for 4 quarters, you know, and had opportunity to win. You know, even, you know, with the field goal, you know, miss, you know, if we make our extra point, we go into overtime, you know. And so those are some of the bright spots. You look at the guys and just tell them, hey, look, we got to keep fighting till we play a true 4-quarter game, you know, all the way across. And, you know, that was some things to really be proud of. And then, you know, some of the things that, you know, I'm kind of got to go in and look at and clean some things up, you know, still not scoring the football, you know, the way I, you know, feel like we should right now. And so I'll definitely get over there on the offensive side and, you know, meet with those guys and see what can we do collectively to be able to score, make more points.
Well, a lot of people are talking about it. You mentioned it, the running attack. We had 32 carries for 94 net yards, averaging 2.9 yards per carry. Then you had Jacorian Sewell with just 9 carries, coming off almost a 300-yard effort. Just talk about trying to get him the football more. Was Prairie View just kind of hanging on to him? What would you assess with that, just 9 carries?
Yeah, you know, well, Prairie View don't have anything, you know, have anything to do with us giving them the football, you know, and so we didn't give it to them enough, and so that's one of those things where, you know, I got to go in the room and, you know, my voice got to be heard, and if I got to put a cap on how many, you know, carries he need to have or how many touches, he'll definitely get that. But I was definitely disappointed with how many times he touched the football. Yeah, we only had 67 plays. However, the buck of those, you know, we feel like, you know, he, if not the best back in the league, he's right up there with him. And so we got to give him more touches than that. But also, you know, kudos to Prairie View, you know, that when you get an 8-man, 9-man box and you got a kid that's almost 450 pounds and it's hard to move, then do you just waste, you know, run game plays, just running it in there to a Great Wall of China, or do you take your shots or try to get it on the perimeter? And so that was kind of, you know, some things that I just didn't like, you know, with the naked eye, but also when I looked at the numbers, you know, we got to get Sewell just more touches, whether it's in the run game or, you know, or you see him catch the ball on the sideline, you know, and do a good job getting extra yards.
That's what everybody was talking about. Like, man, Sewell's the best, I think without a doubt, the best running back in the league. I think he's second or third in total yards from scrimmage in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So I think a lot of folks just assume and expected a heavy dose of Sewell in certain situations.
Yeah, in certain situations, and he should. But when you look at that number, you know, 67 plays ain't a lot of plays. And so, you know, we kind of, you know, been playing both of those running backs. But, you know, you kind of let the offense, you know, take what the defense gives you. And so they didn't play, you know, with 3 safeties on the roof. Those guys came down and got in that box and played us a 9-man box football. The O-line didn't do a great job, even talking to Coach Watson of moving those guys like we thought we could. And so, you know, we just felt like, you know, getting the ball on the perimeter with Jacoby and some guys, you know, we thought that would help. But definitely we still got to give, you know, Sewell a lot more carries, you know, just to give him opportunity, even if it's not just inside, you know, even on the perimeter, just balls that he can catch.
We talked about it in the pregame. So what was the underrated part of Prairie View's defense? I mean, it was hard sledding, running the football. It was kind of tough sledding period, a low-scoring game. So what was it about Prairie View's defense that was tricky?
You know, you don't see that concept, you know, schematically what they're doing. You know, it's a really exotic look, you know, with 3 safeties on the roof. You're getting a Mike linebacker, but what makes the defense work, it kind of puts you in mind, if you guys remember the Texas Southern year a couple years ago, you know, when they had them 3D linemen that went to Baylor and Power 5 schools, where they got a young man in there about 6'5", that's 450 that you can't move. And so he's chopping up the front. They closing them B-gaps off, making that ball go to the perimeter. playing some cover 2 and those guys, slicing through. And there's some concepts, defensively that you got to really kind of be, having a great game plan, look at it, because you don't see it every day. It's different when you're seeing over, under, 3-3 stack and all that, but this is kind of a different look. And so just looking at the film, we kind of do some of the similar things. Everybody, I got a couple calls, to my when we're going to get out of the 3 down front and all this and that, but that's kind of what they did, and so you chop up the inside and you make that ball go out wide, especially when you got bigger bodies inside. So that kind of, what made the tough sledding, overall from a play calling standpoint.
32 carries for 94 yards. You talked about Ja'Cory and Sewell, what happened with 9 carries, but then 11 carries for Reggie Davis. Obviously different type of back. Was it the same type of struggles for Reggie Davis?
Yeah, just period. The run game, you see we got 92, 94 yards overall, and we're not just playing ourselves. We got an O-line that's up there blocking a couple times. We got 2 tight ends, which is a 7-man box for us to be able to run the football. And, it wasn't us just saying we're not going to run it. You got to give that D-line and that defensive structure, pats on the back for being able to do it. And so, shout out to them. They took it away. Still would like, to have a couple more attempts at it. But still felt like, even with that, we had opportunity to win the football game. They scored 1 touchdown. We scored 1 touchdown. They kicked 2 field goals. We kicked 2 field goals, and we lose by 1.
Yeah, that definitely is tough the way that went down. The passing attack coach, Jalen Tolbert, 11 of 22 for $176, but 4 sacks. And you kind of talked about the challenge of trying to keep Prairie View out of the backfield.
Yeah, and I think a couple of those sacks was like what we talked about maybe a week or 2 ago. We trying to run the quarterback run game with him, but he's behind the line of scrimmage. So I think those were sacks that was added to that collection. He had a quarterback power that he didn't get to the line of scrimmage. It looked like an RPO. That might have been one, but it still was some plays where the O-line, like Coach Watson said, they just didn't play their best. But that look, kind of gave them some problems before they could just kind of hone in and figure it out. And so, it was kind of a little part in the backfield for a while, but 22 times I think we threw it. And 4 sacks, that's a high usage rate, 4 sacks. So we got to do a good job of protecting him and, getting his pass pro situated where he does have time to be able to throw strikes.
On the receiving category, you had Jacoby Matthews had 4 receptions for 88 yards. We tried to get the ball to Cahill, who really had a nice game against UAPB. He had a shot in the end zone there, just couldn't get him the football. Yeah,
we knew those corners, was athletic and they was rangy and they did a good job of, using their hands. And so we wanted to take shots, and get KO opportunities, press the field vertical. You see Tyron, he get a shot. We just didn't make those. Those guys got to be a lot more aggressive at the point of attack and get in and make attempts on their football. But, I thought they secondary did a really good job of keeping that ball away from us. And so coaches just decided to go in the slot and kind of have a little bit more success working Jacoby inside.
Kind of a quiet game from Amari and Blakes as well as Ty Warren on Saturday.
Yeah, we had some shots for him, and I think on the right sideline, going toward the stadium, just kind of got boxed out a little bit. But, gave Amari some looks inside. And so we'll continue to feature those guys in the pass game and get them guys some opportunities to be able to make some catches to help this offense.
Defensively, Coach, Stamarian Edwards led the Braves with 8 tackles, Cedric Roberts with 7, T.B. Hinton with 7. Who individually stood out for you defensively?
It was Tobias' best game, since he came. A lot of people, put the SEC label on him, but he's young. He didn't play there, still trying to, figure his way through it. I think it's maybe his 5th game starting, and so, he played a tremendous. Steve, man, I can't ask for no more. I just, I hate the fact that we're not being successful from win and losses standpoint, just, for him. But, man, he playing with a broke finger, broke wrist, and, man, he's just competing and leading. And so, and just shout out to him and those guys following him. And I thought we played, well enough to win this football game defensively.
But still, no sacks.
But I don't know about that one now. I think they said, I don't know if that's true or not. I'll give with Roe, because Roe mentioned a few minutes ago he finally got the monkey off his back. So I'll check and see.
Okay, yeah, the stat sheet says 0 sacks. That's what I was. So there was one there that you felt like was one.
Yeah, he said it was a couple. He actually said he was just talking about it a couple hours ago in the staff meeting that he finally got that monkey off his back. So we'll check and see.
Yeah, interesting there. From a special team standpoint, Coach, Duval, 5 punts, averaging 43.2. What you think about that?
Yeah, man, he's starting to get in his groove. You see him, bagged up. And, he turned the field over, put the ball to the 50, and they don't score that drive. That was a really good kick, good hang, no return on it. And so just seeing the maturation of him, continue to just get comfortable. It's just, it's exciting to see because, we work it every day. And I'm going to continue to say it. And so just to see him, establish the fruits of his labors, positively, it's amazing.
And so overall, Coach, you look at this game. It was tough, obviously. A low-scoring game. So when you look at everything, I mean, just kind of right there, you feel like we're just on the cusp of breaking through here?
Yeah, we just got to win. We got to win, and we got to do all the little things. There's 2 weeks in a row where we got an opportunity to change the outcome of the game. If we get the one, last week, we in field goal range, we got an opportunity to kick it from way closer. That could potentially get us into overtime, and we get one block this week, and we down a point, and so we just got to continue to work. Bad things gonna happen. Like I told them, what do you do when you walk this universe and bad things happen? Do you just roll your sleeves up and say I quit? You know what I'm saying? Or do you just say, hey, look, I'm gonna take the whole shirt off, man. I'm gonna keep fighting. And so I got some guys that I know that'll continue to fight. This staff is doing it, and can't wait to get up this morning. In the morning at 6:40 and get on this Lincoln team.
When you look at the offense, we were talking about injuries and trying to get guys healthy. Damian Jones, Mako, didn't play in the game. Talk about their statuses.
Yeah, it's just still up for grabs. I think it's kind of TBA. Just seeing can they actually go through the rigors of just that pounding to be able to go. I think Damon actually played. I think he played a few snaps, but Mako and I think it's one more. He's still out. I can't think of his name. Diablo. Him and Diablo is still kind of banging that turf toe in that ankle. So we'll see, what them guys look like, and if they can't go, we'll shut them down for the rest of the year, and just roll with the guys that we got.
We're going to take a break right here. We have some questions coming in, and we'll also hear from A.D. Dwayne Robinson. He'll join us coming up here on the program. Of course, questions galore. Will we play this game on Saturday? The answer is yes. A.D. Dwayne Robinson will join us coming up in just a bit. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after this here on the Braves Sports Network.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure.
$1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
We believe nursing isn't just a major, it's a calling. We're not just teaching skills. We're cultivating trailblazers who transform healthcare. Every breakthrough, every compassionate touch starts with curiosity, courage, and community. At the Alcorn State University School of Nursing, passion fuels innovation. Your journey starts here. Always innovating, always transforming, always Alcorn.
My grandma?
Your grandma's fierce.
The new iPhone 15 Pro is now at C Spire. Made with titanium and featuring the most advanced iPhone camera system yet. Get it on us with trade-in. C Spire. Customer inspired. Requires purchase of 36-month device payment plan and eligible wireless service plan. See cspire.com for details.
All right, welcome back to the Cedric Thomas program on X, Tall Man Radio. Coach, a tweet question has come in. They believe, can we start playing younger players and get some experience, and get those guys some experience for next year? Are you? I'm sure you're mixing in a lot of young guys.
Yeah, we playing out players that we feel like gonna give us opportunity to win. Right now, there's a lot of football left, but just definitely there's a lot of guys that's having opportunity to play. Each one of them got at least 4 games before they're deemed, a red shirt or a red shirt year. So we definitely using that, and so we're gonna continue to put the guys that out there that do things right on and off the field that give us opportunity to win a football game. But it's definitely a major part of what we do from a development standpoint.
And another question, Coach. Obviously, we're winless. I don't think anybody expected us to be winless at this point. any major changes that you're looking at making? That's the obvious question a lot of folks want to know on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I make the necessary changes. I feel like that's gonna get us wins, Mr. Charles. But that's for me and the guys internally to be able to just have those talks inside that building. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do what's best for this team from top to bottom. The buck stop was me, and so I got my overall assessment of where I feel like all three phases should be, and I'll definitely make whatever necessary adjustments or changes that I see fit to get us a win and get us to do what we got to do to be successful.
I ask this question often. You hear coaches say you got to tear it down. You don't have a lot of time to tear it down, but do you feel like it's just still tweaks and a little turn of the screw left or right as we roll forward here?
Yeah, well, you look at you look at the end results. We got a chance, as bad as decision making may be, or as bad as we may be playing in certain phases. If Prairie View, the team that everybody thinks they are, and we battle those guys, to basically the same amount of touchdowns and the same amount of field goals. I think, we right there. But we just got to, hone in on the small things. I'm going to keep saying it to them guys until they get me up out of here. They got to understand we got to block. We got to block on the field goal. We got to snap it back there. We got to protect the vertical football and do all the little things. So we continue to do that, day in and day out, and we continue to practice hard. I think we'll start to see, this thing turn around for us.
And there's still a lot of folks just talking about play calling. You feel like there needs to be an overhaul with that, a major change as far as the play calling is concerned.
Yeah, if it happens, I'll definitely make sure I get it done internally. But that won't be anything publicly that I come out, and say. But I observe and I watch and everything. And like I said, I'm gonna make the best decision for this football team from top to bottom.
There was a play coach in the game, and I thought it was an important part of the game. There was a first down given, and then next thing you know, you were livid about it. You threw your headset down. Take us through that sequence right there in which we thought it was one thing, and it turned out to be something else that obviously you didn't agree with.
Yeah, in my 20-some years, that's the first time I ever had a situation where our offense was rewarded for extra downs. If you go back at the 12-minute mark, you see on first and 10, they run a reverse. They lose about 5 to 6 yards. It's 2nd and 15, 2nd and 16. They throw a slant to number 9, and they get about 8 or 9 yards. So now it's about 3rd and 8. And you see the quarterback scrambles. He leaps up, and they said, 2nd and 2. And so I'm like, 2nd and 2. That's impossible. Whether, they pause it, go to the down box and go to the replay, and, all I get is this 2nd and 2. I'm like, that's impossible. Well, we can't show them, the iPads and things of that sort. That's a penalty. So, I just trying to talk those guys through it. And however, it go from 3rd and 2 to 4th and 2. And then from 4th and 2, they got a first down. And so, they not only got a chance to get a first down, they got 3 more extra plays, where 4 if you count the punt. And so you don't get the time of possession back. That's a less, 3 less plays or 4 less plays that we get opportunity to get the football, and you lose a game by 1, and you get, a less amount of plays because it was out of your hand. And so that was kind of my whole message to the guys, when you do things right. And, not only do you not come victorious, but you feel like you might have been a little slighted. What do? Do you sit there and just cry with spoiled milk, or do you roll your sleeves up and you go to work? And so that's what we got opportunity to do. I talked to, the officials. I talked to the SWAC office, and they gave me some clarity on the situation. But, from what we saw in our vantage point, that's what happened.
What did the SWAC office tell you?
That they got the first down. I mean, and so 4th and 2. First down. So,
okay.
But that's my first time, I ever been a part of, that to give another team, extra 4 downs, and so I just, it's just human error. They just made a mistake.
Well, we're going to take a break right here. When we come back, we're going to talk with AD Dwayne Robinson. Of course, this game will be played. And, the questions about whether Lincoln will show up, and they've had to forfeit some games. Will they play? We'll kind of go through that dynamic with him. The game will be played at 2 o'clock, and Coach Thomas kind of talked about it in the SWAC teleconference today. So we'll take a break right here. I think we'll have AD Robinson coming up next after this timeout. We'll take a break. We'll be right back, and then we'll look ahead to Lincoln on homecoming, what changes as far as curfew and all that. You know how homecoming goes. That's always a talk with coaches during homecoming week. We'll take a break right here on the Braves Sports Network.
We've always known that education is the pathway to greater understanding. In our School of Education and Psychology, we believe in the power of human potential, both yours and those you'll serve. You'll join a community that has always championed innovation in human development while finding your own unique path to impact. Because we've always known that teaching isn't just a career, it's a calling. Always educating, always inspiring, always Alcorn.
We are exactly what you think. We are not at all what you think. We are past, present, and future, all in one. Because the best way to honor our history is to make history. General Motors, honored to sponsor the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
And Coach, we're going to talk with A.D. Robinson coming up here in a matter of moments. But homecoming coming up, and obviously that's obviously a big week of work for you.
Yeah, it's the festive time is not for us as a coaching staff nor the players, and so we'll be around that dorm in Steph mode, making sure everybody in, and we got a lot of work to do, and it don't matter who show up, that we gotta play, we gotta get this bad taste out of our mouth, no matter who it is, and so we gotta continue to work. Can't wait to get up in the morning and go to practice and put a plan together so these guys continue to execute so we can get a win.
We're going to take a break right here. We're going to clear the line, Jamario. If we clear the line and get A.D. Robinson on the line, and we'll do that coming up after this timeout here on the Braves Sports Network.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
You don't fight fair, so we'll just fight harder.
We didn't come here to play around.
You're going down.
Honestly, I hate you.
I'm stronger than you.
I'm more determined than you.
We're going to beat you, cancer.
Because the American Cancer Society
is on our team.
And together,
we're stronger when we're all protected. Stay protected this flu season. Get your flu shot today at Alcorn State University Rowan Hall Health Center, Monday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, call 601-877-6460. That number again, 601-877-6460. This friendly health reminder presented by Student Health and Well-Being here at Alcorn State University.
All right, welcome back. We have A.D. Robinson coming up here in a matter of moments. Coach, one bit of news that came down today, Jacorian Sewell's heading to the Legacy Bowl.
And that's awesome. And he's not through working. We're trying to get him in the Senior Bowl, East West Shrine, and everything else to display his talent. Can't say enough for just how steadfast he's been with us inside the program and just getting the opportunity. And I said it in Tampa and Seattle and all those spots. He's an NFL running back, and so he's matriculated through his skill set, through all the bag up, with Javion and Nico, and waited his turn, man. And he's making the best of it. But he's definitely worthy of being on one of these NFL rosters.
Talk about that process of being selected to the Legacy Bowl. Do they call you? How does all that go?
Leroy kind of handles that. He's the point of command, point of contact on that standpoint. I kind of just deal with after they make that selection, kind of what it looks like, and kind of who the roster entails. So I kind of get it on the back end. Leroy's the head liaison, to those guys. And we have had players in that game, and so that just shows you how people are looking at the talent that we have. Yeah, the deal is just we got to participate, and we got to play. That's been the biggest thing. I think a couple guys came down, did some things, and then left. And I think, one came down and didn't do anything. And so they just, made it, perfectly clear, this summer that, if we continue to perform at that rate, they're going to shut the game down. Guys got to really get in there, got to participate. All these scouts, every scout that's there, and they ain't want to see you just, do some drills. They want to see you mix it up and kind of play a little bit and not just treat it like a vacation. And so they really putting points of emphasis. Mr. Harris, talked about it. Mr. Williams talked about it, how we got to explain to our kids how important it is to participate in all the day-to-day activities in that bowl game.
And there's more to it now. I think there's a little bit an additional layer to the game than what we've had in the past to make it even more attractive.
Yeah, that's what they want to do. They want to continue to build on that foundation where it gets better. But we want our young student athletes to be able to take advantage of it. But when you start to throw agents in there and people who really think they know and they're not looking at your best interest at heart, they'll tell you not to do this and wait on your pro day, and they moved it back just because of that, so they won't have an influx of guys just not doing it, saying that the season's just over and they don't have the time to prepare, so they're going to move it back. But we want, not just our players, but everybody that's participating. This is really good, for our culture to have opportunity to see all the scouts, see you compete and do all the drills. And so we're just, trying to coach and teach those guys to understand how important it is to be able to participate in those day-to-day activities.
We're supposed to have A.D. Robinson on the line, and Jamario, if he is on the line, you can just bring him in at any time. As soon as he calls in and connects, we'll get him in and talk about homecoming. And so he'll add to the conversation, Coach, and you were on the coach's teleconference today. The game will be played, and it's been talked about on social media the last several weeks. Lincoln has canceled some games here or there. Are we playing the game on Saturday? So your understanding, and of course A.D. Robinson will talk about that process and trying to get Lincoln here and having the game get played. But the game will get played. Yeah, we're gonna play against somebody, and my mindset is, I told my wife we got to get her dance team out here on Saturday, Mr. Charles. We're gonna do something to them. Like we got to play. That's the only way we're gonna get better. Continue to get this bad taste out of our mouth. And the kids working their tail off to be able to do it. And so, AD assured me, as of this morning, everything was set to go. And so, no matter who shows up on Saturday, we got an opportunity to go out and compete. Yeah, hopefully we'll have him on the line, and he'll be able to talk to us a little bit more. I did talk with him yesterday, and it was talked about, whether the game would get played, and he told me that there was never any doubt the game wouldn't get played. It's just a matter of working out those type of logistics, because Lincoln has had, and it says what you see on social media is a couple of games canceled. One was because they were broken up the game before, but they rescheduled another game. So when you look at that game, Coach, you look at that matchup of, we know what's happened when they played SWAC teams. What concerns you there when you look at Lincoln and trying to get your team ready and trying to bounce back and try to focus and it's homecoming and all those dynamics? My thing to the team, a few minutes ago was just, look at us. How are we in position to play anybody lightly? We look at what they did. They blocked 3 punts. I had 3 interceptions, had 2 punt blocks against Pine Bluff, and that same team beat us. And so we ain't in no position to take anybody on any Saturday light. So we got to go out and prepare as coaches also. A lot of times kids feed off of us, and so if coaches lackadaisical and thinking, we got one up, those kids will come out and they perform the exact same way. Edward Waters, kind of pushed us around a little bit early, last year at the beginning of the first quarter. And so we got to come out, we got to play. We got to play at a high level regardless of who shows up. And we got an opportunity to just right our wrongs and continue to get better. That's my thing to the team now. Any opportunity we get a chance to practice, we get a chance to play. That's a chance we get a chance to opportunity to work on ourselves and continue to get better and continue to improve on all phases. Jamario, do we have A.D. Robinson on the line?
Yes.
Okay, there it is. All right, A.D. Robinson joining us here. We appreciate you coming on. And so, obviously, it's been discussed.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
I appreciate you coming on. I did want to get you on because of the fact that just a lot of conversation. Someone called me last night. Are we playing the game? I've got a lot of money vested in, plane tickets and train tickets and all kinds of, expenses for homecoming, which obviously is an expensive venture. So just give us the process of how this came about, and was it kind of overplayed a little bit, the fact that people might have assumed and thought that the game would not be played? Was that even ever the case?
Well, first of all, let me say that it was never in question whether we would play the game. I think, as in many situations, the social media got the best of us, and many of those who had maybe thought they had insider information to whether it be Lincoln or to some other schools or things like that. But Lincoln never called Alcorn State University and said, hey, there's a possibility that we may not come. In our contract, we have things like this built in. So in case of a cancellation, there's a huge penalty that goes along with that. I know that they had a tough loss, a really tough loss against a major university, and the coach explained that he had some losses, some injuries and things like that happened to his program, and he needed some time to recover. Coach was able to go back after that particular game and reschedule West Alabama, and so the coach made some decisions for his program and for his kids. But at no time did he call us and say that there was a possibility that he wasn't coming. Of course, on our side, we were concerned, so we kept in contact with them on a regular basis, making sure that there was nothing that, if there was anything that we could do to help support them, we are giving them a guarantee to come and be here. So, to your question, the game has always been there and was never really any doubt coming from Lincoln University. It's just that they had some really tough times there on a really tough ball game, and now they're back in the saddle and actually ready to come down here and play a good football game based on what their coaches said.
Yeah, and so that's good to know, because I'm sure you follow the social media back and forth about it, because as you mentioned, there was one game that they did reschedule. There's one that they canceled. So the assumption is that, they got Valley coming up, I believe. They have us obviously this week. So that assumption is out there. So with that and dealing with a situation like that, just talk about the back and forth and just making sure that they're set to go and ready to go and make that trip from Oakland to Mississippi.
Yep, and there was some back and forth going on, and mainly for the mere fact that we're also providing them some transportation from the airport, to get to Alcorn. I think Mississippi Valley is in conversation with them as well, with their travel arrangements while they're here in the great state of Mississippi. So it was definitely some conversation going back and forth. We wanted to, as I shared with Coach, we didn't need to find out at the last minute about their arrangements. We needed to go ahead and lock some things in as to where they were going to be flying into and going to be staying. So there are some things that we definitely needed to have some conversation about, which we were doing. And, again, we never gave any impression to anyone that the game wasn't going to be played. It was just a lot of speculation, unfortunately. But I understand when you have speculation like that and you're traveling to such a big event for us. It's our homecoming, which I totally understand. The passion and the pageantry that goes with our fans for an event like that. You want as much insuredness as possible, that things are going to happen. You just never know sometimes when things get out there in social media as to how things will turn. That's one of the reasons I'm glad that you allowed me to be a part of your show today, to give as much assurance as I could that they're definitely going to be here, and we're going to be prepared to get our win on Saturday.
Yeah, finally, obviously we're looking for our first win. I know it's a tough start, because we get to the halfway point of the season. What would you tell the Braves fans? Hey, just stay with us, stay the course. It's a tough start to the season, no question about that, but a lot of football in front of us.
Well, as I would say, we have a group of kids that need your support. Of course, we know Alcorn always needs your support, and we want to stay as positive as we can for our kids. The negativity is not what they need right now. They need our support, and we want to give them as much support as we possibly can. But, words can be supportive or they can hurt, and I think the more support that we can give them to let everyone know that they're going to come out and support them, support our university, enjoy the family and friends that are going to be here on this campus, and enjoy our first win here going into the next second half of the season.
Well, Mr. Robinson, we appreciate you coming on with us to try to clarify some things and clear things up. There will be a game. Lincoln will be here. The Oaklanders of Lincoln, they call them the Oaklanders, an independent program, will be here at 2 o'clock, and we'll have homecoming. The homecoming game will be played at Jack Spinks Marino Castle Stadium. A.D. Robinson, we appreciate you coming on and giving us some clarity.
You're welcome, Charles, and thank you for having me. And as we always say, always Alcorn, and we look forward to everybody coming out to support.
We appreciate it, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Well, Coach Thomas, so there's the clarity right there, and it's homecoming, and obviously, I think last year you talked about battening down the hatches for homecoming. Is that going to be the case as you get ready for this opponent here? And you talked about how they can pose some challenges, and it's the next opponent, it's the next team up.
Yeah, we definitely got to set some parameters down, just to make sure that we're not out, enjoying homecoming too early. It's not for us, it's not for the players until it's over. And so, my thing to them is I want to see a really good disciplined football team that does the things right, off the field, but also, in search and seeking his first win. And it starts in the morning at 6:40.
Will the team be staying off campus Friday night, or they'll be on campus?
Yeah, I got to give Mr. Robinson. He mentioned it, and so I would kind of see, what that looks like, from his standpoint, and hopefully we can get those guys, kind of off. But if not, if I got to sleep and stay out there, me and his coaching staff, we're going to do it. This is a big one for us because it's the next one. But it's also an opportunity for us to get better and continue to work and enhance what we're doing, this season to get wins.
Final question: offense, defense, special teams. Were you able to get a lot of film on them? You were able to see a lot of stuff on Lincoln.
Yeah, we got the games that they did play. And they got some skilled guys. I'm telling you, anytime you're dealing with programs such as that, the O-line, always can be a little bit different because you're just looking for those bodies. But got some skilled guys. Quarterbacks, athletic, can move around. Got 2 or 3 wideouts that can stretch the field vertically. So we got our hands full. But who are we to take anybody light?
And they're football independent. They started playing football in 2021, so they haven't been doing this long, but they've been making the tour around the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk about it next week. We'll look ahead to our next game, and speaking of homecoming, we got Florida A&M's homecoming as we head to Tallahassee next week. That's Braves head football coach Cedric Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take it right here, and we'll sign off at this point. We appreciate you joining us here on the Braves Sports Network. Pre-game at 1:30, kickoff at 2 o'clock. Alcorn and the Oaklanders of Lincoln on Saturday. We'll talk to you then. So long.